Welcome, Climate Viewers. It's Jim Lee from ClimateViewer News at ClimateViewer.com. Weather warfare versus climate change. What do you think the real story is behind the mainstream media hype over global warming and its implications for all of the crazy and wacky weather going on worldwide? We're going to get into that. I think that people really haven't considered the climate changers. And by the climate changers, I mean those who would intentionally modify the weather for their own economic warfare benefits, for disaster capitalism, or just for being greedy with the rain, and not caring about how it's going to affect people downwind, downstream, hoard for themselves, rules for thee and not for me. So there's no accountability in the world of weather weaponization, let alone weather modification. And we're going to try to bring that accountability to them through something I call the Environmental Modification Accountability Act. But for those who don't know the history, we're going to go through it rapidly, and we're going to get to the possible solution. And I'd love to hear in your comments, give me a better solution, because right now my solution, of course, involves the Environmental Modification Convention, which was a weather warfare ban passed by the United Nations in 1978. And I generally don't like the United Nations. I think that they are a feckless group of useless idiots who really can't do anything. As Dave Chappelle said famously when he played Black Bush, sanction me. Sanction me with your army. Oh, wait, you don't have an army. I guess you better shut the up. Because the United Nations really can't do much about anything. Regardless, let's get into that. If you're watching this anywhere else, check out ClimateViewer on YouTube. Just put in the word ClimateViewer, all one word, and you could find it, or there's the URL. And everything I do is open source, Creative Commons, and you're free to download this video, do whatever you want to with it, burn it to a DVD, send it to your grandma, hype up everybody around the Christmas table. Please support my work. That being said, do you think climate change is messy? Wait until Geoengineering. This was November 30th on Wired.com. And they say someone's bound to hack the atmosphere to cool the planet. So we urgently need more research on the consequences. And that's the truth. Somebody's bound to do it. There's no way it's not going to happen. They kind of make a joke out of it, though. Here's the thing about stratosphere, the region between 6 and 31 miles up in the sky. If you really wanted to, you could turn it pink or green or whatever, or what have you. If you sprayed some colorant up there, stratospheric winds would blow the material until it wrapped around the globe. After a year or two, it would fade and the sky would go back to being blue. Neat little prank. Well, there's nothing funny about this, because at the end of the day, geoengineering is the solution that's being proposed for global warming. It is at the top of the priority scale, not dealing with all the plastic in the ocean, the overfishing of the ocean, the dumping of nuclear waste and chemical biological weapons in the ocean, the poisoning of every aquifer on the planet, the drying up of most of the world, and I mean just generally freaking weird weather. And if you have to ask yourself, why do we have all this weird weather, look no further than let's say China, for example. China covering Tibet in thousands of cloud seeding generators. Don't know what I'm talking about? A cloud seeding generator is down here on the ground. It basically uses the upward motion of air flowing over mountains to carry little seeds, normally silver iodide, but it's also mixed with acetone and other chemicals, to put more seeds into the sky to do what they call orographic cloud seeding or snowpack augmentation. This is currently going on in the United States, happens every single year from October through March. My next video, I'm actually going to get to the weather modification reports for right now. I downloaded every single report from NOAA. They don't know it yet, but you're going to see that in the next video. Anyway, cloud seeding, big deal. Been going on since 1946. Ground-based cloud seeding generator invented by Irving Crick, 1949, and has been going on a massive scale worldwide ever since. Do you think it's just for benevolent purposes? Do you think it's just to make rainfall, to fill up the reservoirs and power hydroelectric dams? Well, got your head buried deep in your anus if you think that's just the case. If you think that droughts are not man-made, if you think that floods and blizzards are not man-made. Shout out to Hawaii. He's having a freaking weird blizzard right now. Might cover that in the next video. But regardless, you combine all this together and you have to consider the size and scale of the weather modification programs going on today. That now we're talking about Tibet, the entire Tibetan plateau. In fact, it's getting rather large. This was the original project area to cover all of Tibet in thousands of cloud seeding generators. Pictures of those right over here on the side. This is what a Chinese cloud seeding generator looks like. China needs more water, so it's building a rain-making network 3 times the size of Spain. Now it's gotten even larger. Come over here, you look at China's new harp playing God with the weather. Not only are they laying down the thick cloud seeding generators everywhere, they're also messing with the electromagnetic spectrum of the planet. They're doing geophysical warfare. Could this new Chinese radar system really be used to play God with the weather? So they're jealous of the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program up in Gakona, Alaska. And they said, you know what? We want to build the biggest freaking ionospheric heater on the planet. And they're doing that. Moving along, China's mind-blowing weather modification, geoengineering, and extreme low frequency transmitter projects. 2019, I covered this. And it only gets bigger and bigger. They're just biggerin' and biggerin' and biggerin'. If you don't believe me, well, China plans to expand its weather modification program to cover 5.5 million square miles by 2025. This is dated December 3rd, 2021. And it just gets bigger. Every time you read about it, it just gets bigger. So you have to ask yourself, although there are those out there in the mainstream, lamestream, old school media saying, you know, this blizzard in Hawaii is completely normal. The last one they had was in 2018. Of course, it's going to snow on top of the mountains. Just normal shit going on here. But you have to ask yourself, now, when China started this program back in 2017, and they have expanded it rapidly, is that leading to some of the drought-like conditions that we're seeing all across the western United States, in addition to blizzard conditions in Hawaii? I don't know. You tell me. But the truth of the matter is, we don't know the answer. China showers 1.15 billion yuan on rain-making project for parched Northwest. This is 2017. So 2017 on, they had started to really ramp up this project, and it's getting crazier by the moment. China has built up its muscle on how to turn weather into a weapon. Can India match up to it? Now, there is straight up a weather war going on between China and India. That China is covering the entire Tibetan plateau with cloud seeding generators, and the Brahmaputra River actually has a dam on the border of China. And you're not even going to believe this, but there actually was electromagnetic weapons frickin' laser beams and microwave weapons deployed against the Indian military by the Chinese on the border over water. That not only are they doing water warfare and weather warfare, that they freaking microwaved Indian troops over this. So damming up their rivers, controlling the water that's flowing not only to India, but down the Mekong River, Vietnam, Laos, all of these places. You know, it's just like the Rocky Mountains in the United States. They feed so many tributaries all around the western United States. The same is true of the Tibetan Plateau, except it's on a much more massive scale. So, of course, China is going to try to hoard that all for themselves. And as you can see right here in the picture below, this is actually a photo from Project Storm Fury. And this is the crew that flew Project Storm Fury to steer hurricanes back in the 70s in the United States. So that's NOAA and Project Storm Fury. I actually interviewed one of the guys, Tom Cotton, who was involved with Project Storm Fury. You can see that when I went to the AMS in 2018 at the 21st Conference on Planet and Inadvertent Weather Modification. Of course, he just said, well, I didn't really work on Project Storm Fury. I was just in the same building. It's cute. Weather as a weapon, new threat emerging from China-controlled Tibet. Right there. From the India Sentinels. I don't know, maybe weather warfare. Can the CIA weaponize weather? The Guardian. Yes, they can. They have in the past. The CIA did Project Storm Fury. Project Popeye. Weather warfare over Vietnam. Henry Kissinger, the Air Force and Navy, and only 19 individuals from the Air Force and Navy were even privy to the fact that we were doing weather warfare over Laos for 5 years, and the Secretary of Defense did not even know. Or at least he claimed he didn't know whenever he testified in front of Congress. This led to the weather warfare ban. The CIA also did weather warfare over Cuba. It was called Project Nile Blue, where they actually made it rain in the Gulf of Mexico. They called it a rain embargo. The idea was to actually make all the rain fall in the Gulf of Mexico so that none fell on Castro's sugar crops. Big problem. Economic warfare. Destroy crops through weather control. So those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. And it seems like so few people know the past. That's the problem that we face. So how could they possibly do anything about it today? Could Iran's enemies really be destroying its rain clouds? From NBC News. This is dated 2012. This is when President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in 2011 and 2012 was screaming bloody murder about I'll answer that in just a second in chat. Was screaming bloody murder about people stealing rain in Iran. It blamed it on all of Europe. And he was at the time the president. Well, you flash forward, and in 2018, Iran accuses Israel of cloud theft, weather warfare, and the CIA Cuban rain embargo. And I go into that in great detail. You can also see that in my cover. That's not it. My cover image here. And that's the actual Iranian brigadier general who said that Israel and surrounding countries were stealing their rain. Were stealing their clouds specifically. If you go back to the article, you can actually see the titles of the articles. Iran general says Israel behind climate change and stealing clouds. That's from Newsweek. General sees foreign plots in Iran climate change. Are we seeing the ties here? It's not just global warming. That's why they're throwing that term out the door. It's climate change. And if you change the weather over an area for a long enough period, you change the climate. That's how they're inextricably linked. And this existential threat is not from your car farting out CO2. It's from weather warfare. It is from the climate changers, men who seek to control the levers of power and exert their dominance over all things natural and control all resources, whether it be water resources, food resources, or human resources. So that's what I'm concerned about. I think you are as well. Iranian general says Israel stealing Iran's clouds. Iran general blames Israel for cloud theft, and then is rebuked by Islamic Republic scientists. Oh my God. And on top of this, for those who don't know, the United Arab Emirates Rainfall Enhancement Program, the UAE, which is right next door, it's a neighbor to Iran, has the world's largest and most well-funded rainfall weather modification projects going on right now. In fact, they're literally going, let's go to the highest bidder. You know, you show me you can make it rain here in the UAE and we will throw our billions of dollars. Shit, we're sitting on trillions of dollars of oil money here in the UAE. We're filthy rich. What we don't have is rain. So you have companies like weathergenerator.net, which is Magnetic Technologies LLC, or Climate Control Global Trading LLC, both of which have reached out to me for an interview. Need to work on that. Kind of hard to get in touch with them. Gotta WhatsApp them. But regardless, so I can't Skype with them, and I may not even be able to pull off a Zoom call, but look for that in the future. These companies claim to use ionization techniques to be able to steer atmospheric rivers, to steer clouds to the UAE. Are they behind the reason why Iran is having their clouds stolen away? Is that what Iran meant by Israel and surrounding countries are stealing their clouds? Does not matter. At the end of the day, there is a war for the weather, and that is by definition weather warfare, which is banned, but wait for it, there's really no way to catch anybody doing it, and that's a big problem. And I mean, this is not like a new thing. This is back in 2004. The ultimate weapon of mass destruction, owning the weather for military use. In fact, even the top geoengineers on the planet are now recognizing that geoengineering ideas, or ideas to combat global warming by mimicking volcanoes and spraying chemicals into the stratosphere to block sunlight, could be used as a military weapon. So why am I bringing all of this up? Because at the end of the day, we got a serious freaking problem, and it's an accountability and transparency problem. And that's why I proposed the Environmental Modification Accountability Act. And I'd like to go through that with you now. You can check that out. The link is in the details already. It's climateviewer.com/nmod, and let's go there now. So the Environmental Modification Accountability Act, it's something that I originally called the Clarity Clause, because a clause is an addition to a law that's already on the books. But people really didn't get it. They're like, what is this, like Santa Claus or something? What you talking about, Jim? So I renamed it the Environmental Modification Accountability Act. And I think it's more to the point because it is about environmental modification. It's not just weather modification. It's not just climate modification. It's about all of the above. And the original law was called ENMOD, the Environmental Modification Convention of 1976. And my solution is an act to end atmospheric experimentation without notification. We should know when people are screwing with the weather. to create an international registry of atmospheric experimentation events so that we know beforehand when people are screwing with the weather. So what are we talking about here? Presentation time. Let's go to full screen right here. And I made this PowerPoint presentation to kind of go over some of the issues. Weather warfare is illegal. It was banned in 1978 under the NMOD Convention. This law seeks to make weather modification, geoengineering, ionospheric heating, and spraying chemicals like defoliants illegal only if intent is hostile. That's the weather warfare ban. Weather warfare is undetectable. When the United States CIA became concerned about Russia tampering with American weather in 2015, they called Alan Robach and asked, would we know? And he stated that we probably would. Alan Robach is a geoengineer. And he said, I thought about it. And yeah, if Russia were trying to do geoengineering over America, we probably would know. But we don't. And earlier in 2015, Diane Seidel from NOAA definitively stated that we cannot tell the difference between natural and man-made cirrus clouds at the 20th Conference on Planned and Inadvertent Weather Modifications. The answer is definitively, we don't know and we can't tell. That is a huge freaking problem. So we demand transparency and accountability from the rainmakers, climate changers, and weather warriors. That is the solution. Who are, and this question was asked in chat earlier, who's behind all this? Well, guess what? No surprise to anybody, China, America, Russia. Those are your three dominant powers in controlling the weather today. The United States has a long history of weather warfare. We've been caught red-handed. We're the reason why there is a weather warfare ban. Russia has done weather warfare, weather modification with their military during the Chernobyl nuclear accident, and numerous other times. There's a funny story about Russia, the Russian military cloud seeding with cement. And they were just basically throwing bags of cement out of the back of their plane. And no joke, one of these bags of cement literally landed and busted through the roof of somebody's house. Look it up. Russian Air Force bags of cement, weather modification. You can't make this stuff up. You really can't. And China, of course, the Chinese People's Liberation Army, their military is involved in all of the weather modification that goes on in China, from firing cannons and rockets, mortars, shells. They attempted to stop rain at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. By the way, there's Beijing Olympics coming up very soon. I wonder what kind of pranks they're going to play with the sky come this Olympic season, but we'll have to see. It's a wait and see kind of thing. All of these technologies are at their disposal at any moment. Ionospheric heaters, sounding rockets, satellites, lasers, cloud seeding, cloud ionizers, stratospheric aerosol injection, geoengineering, ship tracks and contrail-induced cirrus. Ships and planes make clouds that screw with the weather, and they are constantly doing so. Water vapor pollution from wet surface air coolers and from actual cloud generators. 8, 9, and 10, ship tracks, planes, and water vapor pollution are considered inadvertent or accidental geoengineering unless somebody actually did it on purpose. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to find that proof because there's so much disinformation. There's so much little information and honesty from the people who are doing these experiments. So we can at least say for certain technologies 1 through 7 are specifically for weather modification and can be used for weather warfare purposes. So I want to help you understand the problem. We need transparency. How can we determine if an individual organization is engaged in hostile actions if they are not required to explain their intentions or give public notice before experimenting in our skies, and verification. How can we catch in-mod violators without proper tools to do so? If we catch violators, who enforces sanctions penalties? Because like I said, the United Nations, they can't really do crap. I mean, what are they going to do? Sanction you. Okay. Well, they become very political lately, and they tend to pick sides, and it doesn't seem to be like they're picking the right sides very often. But regardless, somebody, something, some group needs to be able to catch people in the act and then penalize them for doing weather warfare. Nuclear explosions are banned. Kim Jong-un still blows up nukes. Didn't stop him one bit. So, number one, transparency. To be hostile or not to be? That is the question which plagues us all. A worldwide weather modification registry require 48-hour notice of intention to experiment in the atmosphere, cloud seeding, geoengineering, ionospheric heating, weather modification, etc. State, purpose, location, etc. Registry is always available on the internet, updated hourly. And the reason for this is that weather modification is going to continue. There is very little we can do to stop that, but that we can at least get transparency. Okay? And if we get transparency, then at the very least, if somebody goes and screws with the weather, you can sue them for damages if you know they did it. Okay? Transparency matters. The public has a right to know, improve accuracy of weather and climate prediction models. Hey, I mean, half of the people that are making up these climate change models and people who are predicting the weather, they don't know when people are screwing with the weather. So they don't know when people are actually doing any of these. Examine the butterfly effects of hundreds of simultaneous experiments. And there are literally locations where people are paying, they're paying to make it rain in the same area where they're paying to do hail mitigation to make hail smaller, all at the same time. So what are the effects of multiple individuals doing multiple projects in the same place? Nobody knows, and nobody will know without complete transparency. Accountability for environmental, physical, and monetary loss from both legal and clandestine weather modification. Clandestine meaning secret, government, top secret, you don't know about it. If an individual or organization engages in weather modification activities without notifying the registry at least 48 hours before, may be considered hostile and based on severity in mod violation. So the whole idea in a nutshell is you got to tell us 48 hours before you're going to screw with the weather. If you do not and we catch you, you are up to no good. We can assume that your intentions are nefarious. This is the best solution I've been able to come up with, because at the end of the day, if we can't tell you're doing it and you don't tell us you're doing it and everybody else is at least admitting to it, we're going to raise public awareness. This should piss a lot of people off and may lead to an end in the entire weather modification process. Like maybe, enough people will be outraged by it to say, no weather modification, but at least we will know. And if somebody screws with the weather, you break, you buy, people will be able to hold them to account in a court of law. If you don't tell us and we catch you doing it, then you're doing weather warfare. You are up to shenanigans and you have been busted. This is the only way to catch somebody doing weather warfare. And, of course I'm seeing it even in the comments right now, because I've been doing this for over a decade. I've heard it from every single possible angle there is. Why not just ban weather modification altogether? I would freaking love that. I don't like the idea of man messing with weather. I personally believe in God. I believe that nature is a beautiful balance and that it should be allowed to happen naturally. But why not? Because bans do not work. This is number one. Above ground nuclear warhead testing is illegal due to the limited test ban treaty, yet North Korea tests nuclear warheads. Okay? So we could ban all weather modification, but of course, just like with nuclear warfare, people still blow up nukes. So best case scenario, build sensors to catch bad actors. More details on that in the verification section of this presentation. Number two, too big to fail. Weather modification is over a century old and is a multi-billion, I will go ahead and up that to multi-trillion dollar industry. Stock markets and insurance companies bet on weather and ensure that their bets pay off with this technology. See the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and weather derivatives and event contracts, and understand there is a lot of money in this. Water-strapped states will not give up this technology. If you're on the west coast of the United States, Idaho State Power, Sacramento Municipal Utility District, the entire state of Texas. I'm going to go into who's actually modifying the weather to give you an example of real world scenarios of all of the people paying for weather modification so that you can understand. Simply trying to ban all of this, they are going to put up every bit of a fight like you've never seen before, because water is life. And by the way, the fracking companies, they really need their water. And by the way, that may leave none for you. So they're going to pay somebody to modify the weather to give them more water because they already gave it away to Nestle and the freaking frackers. Surprise, surprise, not at all. Human control. Unfortunately, it is in our nature to control everything. Land, rivers, oceans. Why would the sky be any different? Though I would prefer no weather modification at all, men shall dare in the name of progress. Therefore, we need transparency. So to reiterate, I would prefer no weather modification. I would love to see it banned. But if we get transparency, if we get them to at least honestly say, here's where we're doing it, here's why we're doing it. Everybody worldwide, right now in the United States, we have the Weather Modification Reporting Act of 1972. I have all of the receipts for the people who did weather modification in 2021. Going to be showing this off very soon. There is weather modification all over the UK. There is weather modification all over the European Union. So for those in chat who are having a nice argument about that, that is not even an argument. In fact, I'm going to break my demo right now just to reiterate that point. We're going to go right here to the front page of ClimateViewer.com, and we're going to go to this map of United Nations tracking weather modification projects, 1952 through 1999. And what you're going to see here is a beautiful map right here. And we'll go to that, and we'll stop my video that's playing in the background. Stop because I tell you to. And we're going to go to that. And as you can see here, here's all of the weather modification projects that were tracked by the United Nations from 1952 through 1999. Yes, you can see all of those on this list right here. Scroll through them. Here, I'll blow it up big so you guys can see it at home. And you can fly around the world and see all of them. So what does it look like? It looks like this. This is Europe. And of course, look up here in the UK. Well, they never reported anything to the United Nations. Does that mean it's not occurring? Bullshit. But you can see right here all of the different places. And this is just what was reported to the World Meteorological Organization's expert team on weather modification. And I have original copies of all those documents. You can see them below on the map. Let me go back here and I'll actually show it to you. So these are the World Meteorological Register of National Weather Modification Projects. 1989 through 1999 are in the map. And then, and you can see right here, I'll zoom in. just to give you guys an example of what one of these looks like. Bam, this is it right here. WMO Program on Physics and Chemistry of Clouds and Weather Modification Research, Register of National Weather Modification Projects 2001 through 2002, and they go into who did what, where, and when, and why. These are impossible to find. In fact, they were destroyed. If you go to the site where I actually got these from, right here, of course, that no longer exists. Bet you're not doing that to my freaking thing. So we're going to go to check archive, and I have a little JavaScript, which will pull that snap up, and we're going to pop back here, and we're going to pop here, and then we're going to pop here, and we're going to pop, and bam, we are right here to the World Meteorological Organization's expert team on weather modification, and that's where these come from. So as you can clearly see, they have done this for a long time, and this is the Register of National Weather Modification. They only have 2003, 2004, 5, 6, and then you can see 2007 through 2009. There isn't even a link here. So you may be asking yourself, Jim, how the hell did you get all of these? It was not easy. It was not easy, but I dug through their FTP servers and I trolled them as hard as I possibly could. And these are all of the World Meteorological Organization reports on weather modification. And as you can see, it's everywhere. I mean, it's a worldwide affair. It's a big party in the sky. Look at China. Jesus. That's a lot of weather modification, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why, let's get back to this. I say too big to fail. That there are way too many people involved in this, and they're not going to easily give up this technology. Back to the story. But thank you for playing in chat, guys. Love you, mean it. Transparency is a start. Transparency may result in public outrage or acceptance. We need to start with disclosure. Knowing is half the battle. So that's why I make the argument that we should at least know, because everyone's Sim Jim Pantera. I got more friends like you. What do I do? Quit trolling me. You guys are trolls. Is there no standard anymore? Verification. Trust, but verify. Problem. If we have a global registry of legitimate weather modification experiments and we want to catch bad actors, how do we detect clandestine military secret programs? Solution. Combine atmospheric sensors worldwide into one super weather warfare detection system, similar to the nuclear monitoring by the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty Organization's International Monitoring System. That's a mouthful. CTBTO. The CTBTO actually cited my 2,615 nuclear explosions on ClimateViewer.org map. In their international monitoring system, as a reference for all of the nuclear explosions that have ever occurred. That's how I even found out about the CTBTO. But they basically have infrasound recorders, seismographs, and all of that sort of thing to triangulate and detect when nuclear explosions occur so that they can verify that people aren't breaking the Limited Test Ban Treaty, saying no nuclear explosions above ground. You have to do nuclear testing underground. No more in the atmosphere, no more in space. So similarly, we need a sensor network to detect weather modification, weather warfare. There is not one. And that's why I proposed ClimateViewer, a citizen-powered Earth-observing sensor network in your backyard. And hopefully, in the near future, we'll be able to get to test driving one of these and actually build one. And what I'm proposing is actually having the rain that's coming down in your backyard doing tests on it and telling you exactly what chemicals are coming down in the rain, because we know most of the chemicals that are involved in weather modification. Diana, if graphene starts showing up in your rain in your backyard, you'd be able to tell. You'd be able to hold this sheet of paper up and say, here's my printout from last night. A buttload of graphene got dumped in my rain last night. Something is up. This is not natural, but you cannot know what you don't have proof of. And that's why I'm proposing this. A citizen-powered Earth observing network. Why? Because I don't trust the government. Do you trust the government? I don't trust the government. That's why we should have 2 sensor networks. Bam! That's my solution. I'm sticking to it. I want 2 sensor networks. I want one run by the government and one run by the people, because they could turn their network off just like they did during Fukushima, just like they turned off EPA's RadNet or radiation detection network. I want to be able to ensure they cannot turn off the weather warfare detection network. So we need a citizen-powered one also. What's a sensor? A device that detects or measures a physical property and records, indicates, or otherwise responds to it. Sensors are senses for robots: taste, sight, touch, smell, sound. Light sensors, wind sensors, Geiger counters, video cameras, spectrometers, and radio antennas are just a few examples of common sensors that we would like to include in the ClimateViewer for your backyard. Decentralized Internet of Things network. ClimateViewer will connect people, robots, and sensors together to display their data in many ways: graphs, timelines, maps, etc. ClimateViewer is open source. ClimateViewer will rely on Attention. I can't even get into Attention right now because it's so damn complicated. To gather sensor data and to store it on the blockchain in the Interplanetary File System, IPFS, users and sensors sensor data is distributed on a load balanced network securely, privately, and indefinitely, meaning that all of this data would not be stored in a central computer, because then they'd be able to destroy that data. So not only am I thinking about being able to catch the people doing weather warfare, but how do we ensure that once we do catch them, they can't just go out and DDoS the server down or destroy the data? Well, blockchain and distributed network, decentralize all the things, spread it wide and far, encrypt it and share it everywhere. Make sure that you can download it offline. That's what Attention was all about. And that is one of my goals for the future, is to make that a reality. In 2015, there was about 15.4 billion connected IoT devices, according to IHS. This number will grow to 30.7 billion in 2020 and 75.4 billion in 2025. Wearable devices are also noticeably growing, from 28.3 million units sold in 2016, an increase to 82.5 million units in 2025, 31% growth. Let's put them to work. So the idea that literally people are rolling around with, iPhones and Androids and all of these wearable devices, we could even include those sensors into this, being able to detect extremely low frequency waves, all kinds of chemical, they're actually Bluetooth chemical sniffers that you can actually attach to your phone. All of these are things. Meow. Meow. I have a cat wanting to invade my broadcast. Yes, there are cats. There are always cats. But this is an example of what the streaming data would look like. Rain samples, we have 1,089 records, how long they were up, what their rating is, their trustability rating, all sky cameras, how many hours recorded, aerosol samples, how much air we're actually sampling, what the data rates are, be able to display all of that in a real-time sensor map like climateviewer.org. so that you can actually see just real color coded. Green is good. Yellow is questionable. Red, bad. We know something is up here, and you can go look into that. So very quickly, at a glance, being able to see all of the different climate viewers around the world. Notice I put climate viewer number 1 right here in Sumter, South Carolina, where I live, because I'll be the test driver for this thing. But yeah, this is something that you would be able to have in your backyard that would give you peace of mind about the weather warfare and about the weather modification going on over your house. ClimateViewer Sensor Network benefits: act as a verification regime in parallel with a separate government-backed sensor network. Combat censorship of official sensor data by creating a data set with no centralized control. Think ClimateGate. Hello. You want to say hi to everybody? This is David Bowie, and this little booger is trying to control my stream. Now get on. Back to the show. Bad David Bowie. Bad. Combat censorship. Oh, we did that. Gather priceless observational data with that will improve all atmospheric sciences, let alone catch bad guys. Prevent further loss of life from acts of terrorism. Help first responders to biological and radioactive aerosols, dirty bombs. Accountability for environmental, physical, and monetary loss from both legal and clandestine weather modification. Hey, it's about catching people and holding them to account. Oh man, quantum consciousness, I appreciate it. Love this awesome idea. Jim, I've always been wanting this for so long. I've been wanting this just as long. I came up with this idea several years ago while trying to juggle all of the things. It's very tough. I'm a one-man show over here doing my broadcasting, doing my website, doing my research. I'm going to be on Clyde Lewis tonight, and I've still got to update ClimateViewer.com and ClimateViewer.org, the maps. It's going to be moving over to ClimateViewer.com, so it'll be maps.ClimateViewer.com instead of ClimateViewer.org. All this stuff has to be updated. And then I'm going to be working with somebody who can actually program the damn thing and putting the pieces together, because when I looked into it last in 2018, the parts were so expensive. I looked about 2 months ago, and I found a spectrometer, which is basically something that I could actually shoot a laser beam into a rainfall sample and be able to tell what chemicals are in that rainfall sample, as cheap as like $200. And if we got a whole lot of them, we could probably drive that price down. But I want to be able to make a climate viewer that's inexpensive, that everybody can use, that can tie into the network, and that the network is stable, decentralized, and all of that. It's a massive undertaking. I'm dedicated to this. It will happen. Where there's a will, there's a way, and my will is this big. Killy Bear. My wife is watching. Love you, baby. I'm seriously going to do this, baby. Anyway, Killy Bear's my wife, for those who are wondering. Come here, Rascal. And this is Rascal. This is my other little kitty. Say hi. Say hi, Rascal. Okay. I'm surrounded by cats. There's so many cats in my house right now. Moving along. So, in a nutshell, this is how it works. Require notice with a registry. Catch bad guys. Sensors. No fear. That's you. That is the Environmental Modification Accountability Act. Tell me up front. If you don't, we're going to catch your ass. And that way we can live with no fear. And I hope that you can all, at least wrap your head around the idea. I hope that you can support this idea and that we can make this a reality. At some point in the near future, I will, open this up to like a crowdfunding kind of thing when we get closer to actually building it, because these things need to happen. Weather warfare is illegal. We want a 48-hour public notice. Geoengineering is banned. Did you know that? The Convention on Biological Diversity banned outdoor experimentation with geoengineering in 2012. So not only is weather warfare banned, geoengineering's freaking banned. That does not stop them. That's not stopping David Keith and Bill Gates from trying to do their ScopeX geoengineering project. That is not stopping all the, as they call it, accidental geoengineering going on with planes and ship tracks. So we need all of that. Rascal's having a bad hair day, eh? My wife's like, Prince and the other one, he who shall not be named, are hiding right now, or probably climbing the Christmas tree. Do you know that I actually have to take my Japanese screen down now because of these kittens? It's that bad. When I get done with this video, I'm gonna have to go fold that thing up and put it in a corner because they're climbing it. They're climbing into my brain. The kittens are. But anyway, so this is my solution. I hope that you like it. And unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not Dr. Seuss. He used to say that at the end of all my videos till somebody told me I could get sued for saying that. Crazy, right? Thanks. Any questions? If you have any questions, hit me up on ClimateViewer.com, ClimateViewer.org, WeatherModificationHistory.com. My email is jim@ClimateViewer.com. And I do answer the emails. And if you want your question answered on air, feel free to hit me up. And of course, sharing is caring. Please support my work. You could do it on Patreon. You could do it on PayPal or GoFundMe. I would greatly appreciate any monetary support you can give me, because pretty much everything I get goes back into either directly buying equipment to make this stream better, to work on all of the website design. For those who didn't catch it, I just spent a year and a half redoing weathermodificationhistory.com. Go over there and check that out. It is sick AF. And it's already getting cited. In fact, I believe Daniel Rosenfield from the Hebrew University at Jerusalem, one of the weather modification guys I interviewed at the AMS in 2018, he actually cited Weather Modification History's page on weather warfare Operation Popeye in one of his recent scientific journals. So we're getting noticed by all of those climate changers and policymakers. So if we've got their attention, we're moving in the right direction. I hope that you guys will understand, at least from my perspective, why we need this. And I think that it's just a start, because like I've said from the get-go, I don't trust the government. I don't trust the United Nations. I think they're weak. I think they're useless. But we have to start somewhere. And at least by, getting this on the books, then maybe we can at least open the doors towards transparency. And with transparency might come outrage, and with outrage might come an outright ban of all things weather control, which I think would be a great day, would be a great life lived in pursuit of changing something that I absolutely abhor, and that is people tinkering with the fucking weather. So when the next time you're listening to the mainstream, lamestream media tell you that the freaky ass weather is all caused by the emissions coming out of your car, or the cow farts, or the CO2, ask them, or actually tell them, don't talk to me about climate change unless you know about the climate changers. And don't tell me that weather warfare ain't possible, because those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. So please take all this information and use it, because with information comes power, and with power comes great responsibility. So please use this information to attack ideas, not people. Love you, mean it.